In a moment of rare candor, Barbra Streisand peeled back decades of Hollywood mystique to share a secret that had lived quietly in the shadows of her legendary career. On June 17th, during a deeply personal interview reflecting on her life and loves, the iconic singer and actress stunned the world by confirming that she once had a romantic relationship with fellow screen legend Warren Beatty. Brief but intense, and secret, she said, her voice steady, her words deliberate. The revelation instantly made headlines. Not for scandal, but for the sheer emotional weight it carried. Streisand, now in her 80s, has always held her private life close, revealing only what she chooses, when she chooses. So when she lifted the curtain on this long-rumored romance, it was more than a celebrity confession. It was a historical flashpoint, pulling us back to an era when love stories were felt deeply, but kept beautifully hidden. For years, whispers of a possible affair between Streisand and Beatty lingered in the periphery of Hollywood lore. They were both untouchable in their prime, fiercely talented, famously attractive, and notoriously elusive when it came to their personal lives. Fans speculated, tabloids hinted, and biographers theorized, but neither party ever confirmed it. Until now. And the timing couldn't be more poignant. In an age where celebrity relationships are dissected in real time on social media, Streisand's revelation felt like a love letter to an era when romance could exist without validation from headlines. Her calm, almost wistful admission redefined what it means to own one's narrative, not by hiding, but by preserving it until the moment is right. Streisand spoke not with regret, but with reverence. There was no bitterness, no gossip, no sensationalism, just a reflection on something fleeting and meaningful, a connection that mattered in its moment and lingered quietly in memory. It happened in the 1970s, a decade overflowing with creative freedom, cinematic revolution, and sexual liberation. Both stars were at the height of their fame. She fresh off Funny Girl and conquering both music and film, he a critically acclaimed actor and director with an infamous reputation for romance. Yet this particular chapter of their lives remained unwritten in the public eye, until now. As soon as Streisand's interview aired, social media exploded. Longtime fans began revisiting old photos, archived interviews, and award show appearances, searching for clues that had been hiding in plain sight. Film historians and pop culture commentators rushed to contextualize the significance of the moment. But what resonated most wasn't just the surprise. It was the dignity with which Streisand told it. In an industry often driven by publicity over privacy, she proved once again that the most powerful stories are the ones told with restraint, reflection, and authenticity. Her truth didn't demand attention, it commanded it. And in that quiet command, Streisand reminded the world why she remains one of the last true legends. Because even her secrets are delivered like art. Behind the glamour, the relationship between Barbra Streisand and Warren Beatty unfolded in a world where their connection, however sincere, was both impossible to ignore and impossible to fully live out. While the public saw two Hollywood icons at the peak of their fame, the truth was far more complicated. Fame in the 1970s was a double-edged sword, seductive yet suffocating. And for two fiercely independent and wildly sought-after stars like Streisand and Beatty, privacy was both a luxury and a necessity. Their bond, however genuine, was constantly threatened by the very spotlight that made them famous. Even a simple dinner or quiet getaway risked turning into a tabloid frenzy. Beatty, already infamous for his high-profile liaisons, carried a reputation that made discretion nearly impossible. Streisand, who had endured intense media scrutiny from early in her career for her appearance, her politics, and her powerful presence, wasn't willing to let a romance, no matter how real, become a headline she couldn't control. Sources close to Streisand at the time described her emotional walls as protective but fragile. Beatty, charming and impulsive, lived in perpetual motion, often elusive, always desired. Their brief connection thrived in stolen moments and quiet conversations, but was quietly threatened by divergent needs. Streisand craved stability, creative focus, and emotional safety. Beatty was chasing the fire of risk and reinvention. They were both icons, but their personal scripts didn't always align. According to insiders, the affair might have deepened into something more serious had their lives not been so overwhelmingly shaped by external expectations. Instead, it stayed hidden, protected, but also incomplete. And while the secrecy preserved its dignity, it also carried a cost. Streisand, reflecting in her recent interview, hinted at a tension that never fully resolved, a sense that something meaningful had been put on hold, indefinitely. Beatty, in his own memoirs and past interviews, has often described his deepest relationships in abstract terms, never quite naming what he felt or feared. It's unclear whether he would confirm this story now, or if he too has carried it quietly. But what is clear is that both were operating within a system, both Hollywood and society at large, that didn't make room for nuanced, quiet love between two powerful people. There was no space for them to simply be. They were icons first, individuals second, and then, decades later, that long-buried ember was reignited, not through scandal, but through reflection. Barbra Streisand's revelation didn't come with fanfare or theatricality, but it ignited a cultural ripple that felt seismic. As the world processed the confession, the moment evolved into something far bigger than a secret love affair. It became a celebration of restraint, a study in the power of the unsaid, and a rare glimpse into the emotional cost of being eternally iconic. The press moved quickly, but the public moved more thoughtfully. Fans didn't react with the usual celebrity gossip hunger. They responded with awe, with gratitude, with curiosity about how many other stories like this have remained untold, shielded by personal dignity and the cruel machinery of fame. And what of Warren Beatty? While he has yet to publicly respond, the silence speaks volumes. Those who know him say he was deeply moved by the acknowledgement, even humbled. For a man often caricatured by his long list of lovers, this quiet nod from Streisand reframed him, not as a womanizer, but as someone who, at least once, was deeply seen by someone extraordinary. This wasn't tabloid fodder, it was emotional archaeology, unearthing a relic not for profit, but for peace. As the buzz settled, what remained was a renewed appreciation for the real love stories, the ones that don't come with diamond rings or dramatic breakups, but with respect, restraint, and a lasting emotional imprint. Streisand didn't need to say more. In those few words, she gave a masterclass in storytelling, showing that the most powerful narratives are not always the most public. They are the ones we carry quietly for years, until one day, we're ready to let the world see just how deeply we once felt. And when that moment comes, it doesn't roar. It resonates. Quietly, permanently, and with a grace only a true legend can summon. In the end, Barbra Streisand's revelation didn't merely confirm a rumor, it gently reframed our understanding of love, legacy, and the weight of silence. As the days passed and the media frenzy softened, what endured wasn't scandal or spectacle, but something much rarer in the entertainment world: reverence. Streisand had done what few public figures manage. She took control of her own mythology, not to correct it, but to complete it. She didn't need to relive the past for attention, nor dramatize a chapter that had already closed. Instead, she added a single sentence to the story, a sentence that, somehow, said everything. In that small gesture, she reminded the world that the most sacred experiences are often the ones we choose to protect, not publicize. Fans responded with quiet gratitude, as if they too had been given permission to revisit their own lost connections. The people who changed them for a season, the bonds that didn't last forever but mattered just the same. Streisand's confession wasn't a nostalgic indulgence, it was an emotional invitation. It invited audiences to consider the relationships that shape us without fanfare, the romances that don't end in weddings or headlines, but still carve something permanent into our hearts. In a world that demands constant closure and visibility, she offered something subtler. The idea that some stories aren't unfinished just because they remained untold. They are simply private, and their value lies in their preservation. For Streisand herself, this moment felt less like a revelation and more like a release, the gentle letting go of a truth long held. Perhaps age softened the urgency to guard it, perhaps wisdom whispered that sharing it now would mean something more than it ever could have in the moment, or perhaps she simply wanted to remind the world that even icons are human, that even the most controlled, curated lives contain moments of chaos, longing, intimacy, and imperfection. Her tone was never confessional, it was reflective. It held no shame, only softness. Culturally, the moment left an imprint far deeper than expected. It reawakened respect for emotional privacy, especially among women whose stories have often been reshaped or erased by others. Streisand's choice to tell her story in her own time, in her own voice, felt revolutionary in its simplicity. She didn't offer gossip, she offered grace. And in doing so, she redefined what a revelation could be. Not an explosive headline, but a quiet acknowledgement of something beautiful that once was. As the world continues to dissect every tweet and clip from younger stars, Streisand's moment stands apart, not because it was louder or more dramatic, but because it was earned. In revealing one quiet truth, she reminded us that real legends don't need to shout, they whisper. And when they do, the world listens, not with frenzy, but with stillness. Because deep down, we recognize something sacred. That love, when remembered with honesty and care, doesn't fade, it deepens, even in silence, especially in silence.